Trump could totally win. If for some chance he doesn't win, what happens to all of this afterwards?
Me personally,
Sure.
on the Biden campaign poster, there's 3 red lines.
Yeah.
Look it up on Google.
Well, I think it's an E.
It's supposed to be an E, but look at the 3 red flags or 3 red banners.
And they mean?
Communism.
He stuck communism right there on the flag?
You got it.
Really? Really? You don't want to be in a place of socialized medicine?
Nope.
So where would you go?
I'm going to look at Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, which has universal health care.
Yeah, I'm not going to live under socialist rule. I don't think Biden's going to make the 4 years, and the Camelback, forget it.
The Camelback, who's that?
Kamala.
Oh, wow. That both mispronounced the name and xenophobic.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they don't take you in Costa Rica, I'm sure Argentina would welcome you and your point of view with open arms.
We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. Stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list. Okay? It's a very sad moment. To me, this is a very sad moment, and we will win this. And as far as I'm concerned, we already have won it. So I just want to thank you. If you count the legal votes, I easily win. If you count the illegal votes, they can try to steal the election from us. We think there's going to be a lot of litigation because we have so much evidence, so much proof, and it's going to end up perhaps at the highest court in the land. Without tens of millions of unsolicited ballots, without any verification measures whatsoever.
Well, we're interrupting this because what the President of the United States is saying, in large part, is absolutely untrue. He began, and we're not going to allow it to keep going because it's not true. He began with there were legal votes, and if they only count the legal votes, I easily win. If they count the illegal votes, they're trying to steal the election. There is not a scintilla of evidence that this is true. None. There's only words here. No truth. He said the pollsters knowingly got the polls wrong to create voter suppression. There is no evidence of any kind that this has happened, and he's provided none. He said that there is actually a red wave in this election. That is categorically false. He said there was election interference. There is no evidence to support that, and the president has offered none. He said the polls were fake. In some cases, the polls were wrong. It's been widely discussed that maybe the idea of polling needs to be reinvented. That's for another day. There's no evidence that the polls were, quote, fake. He said that observers were not allowed in to watch the counting of the votes. Categorically false. He said that that after, if you could take him out of my ear, please. He said they wanted to wait until after the election and then find extra votes for him. There is no evidence that this is true, and he's offered no evidence to support it. He said he will not allow the corruption to steal the election. There is no indication of any corruption to steal the election, and no evidence thereof has been offered. He said that they don't want anyone watching as they count the ballots. This is categorically false. In each case, observers are allowed from both sides of the political aisle to watch the counting happen. He said that they are trying to commit election fraud. Categorically false. In the state of Georgia, the Secretary of State was asked if there had been any voter fraud investigations of yet. And the Secretary of State in the state of Georgia said there have been no complaints of voter fraud by Democrats or Republicans. And as a result, there have been no investigations of voter fraud. The truth is, the count continues. The vote ended at different times as set by law and structure in states and counties across the nation on Election Day, Tuesday, November 3rd. The vote stopped and the counting began. In some cases, ballots were allowed by mail-in as long as postmarked by the end of the day on November 3rd to be counted for a few more days. Pennsylvania, for instance, the Republican-controlled state created rules that allowed for the counting to continue through Friday of this week, so until tomorrow. No votes are being allowed after November the 3rd. In some states, they have to arrive by November the 3rd. But allegations of voter fraud, allegations of trying to steal the election, none of that is true. Not one word.
This is Olbermann versus Trump, and thank God I'm not Trump. Had him all the way. Congratulations to President-elect presumptive Biden and Vice President-elect presumptive Harris. This is not the time for recriminations, but it is the time to address crimes and attacks on our form of government that have happened since Thursday. The lame duck president of the United States is in the throes of profound paranoid delusions, perhaps even hallucinations, and he must be removed from office as soon as possible via the 25th Amendment or by any other legal means. Waiting 75 days is no longer possible. In the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, which killed another 1,100 Americans yesterday, the nation cannot have a leader with access to weapons and troops who is not of sound mind and who is convinced he is being conspired against. It also cannot have a leader who, through his henchmen and his family, is overtly encouraging violence against groups and specific individuals and even specific federal officers. And most importantly, it cannot have a leader who, through his words and the words of his hirelings, is fomenting armed insurrection against the duly constituted government of the United States and of the individual states. It has long been evident that, whatever the precise diagnosis, Trump's brain does not work correctly.
Well, let's talk about a much more serious and more immediate conflict. President Trump, as you know, continues to say that this election is stolen, that there was rampant fraud, and he intends to pursue legal challenges, he says, starting Monday in courts across the country. Here is the president.
Historic election interference from big media, big money, and big tech. As everybody saw, we won by historic numbers, and the pollsters got it knowingly wrong.
How much harder will it be for President-elect Biden to keep his pledge to bring the country together if President Trump continues to say and to contest the legitimacy of this election?
Well, I think it's one of the reasons you see the president-elect already reaching out to those who didn't vote for him. And he didn't just say, give me a chance, or just say, I'm going to give you a chance. He said, let's give each other a chance. And that's an example of how he's beginning the work of healing the nation right away, not wasting any time to do it. Look, even in these last days of his presidency, the current president, has a chance to show leadership, to act as the person who loses every presidential election in our history has done and do his part to help move this country forward and bring us together. We've not seen that so far, and that's unfortunate.
I was going to say, and if he doesn't, Mayor Buttigieg?
Well, then it really comes down to his supporters. And look, this is a tough time. I've been on the losing side of many elections, and especially in a polarized country like this. I know that there are a lot of folks who supported the current president, who, maybe almost everyone in your neighborhood and your church and your Facebook circle of friends feels the same way, to where it's very hard to believe or accept that he's not popular. In the same way that 4 years ago, I had a lot of liberal friends who literally couldn't believe that Donald Trump had the support of more than a quarter of the country, let alone almost half, as he proved to do. But the simple reality is that President Trump has never had the support of a majority of the American people. And this is the reality of where America is and where the election results are. In terms of the popular vote, it wasn't even close. In terms of the electoral college vote, the results are clear. And the best thing we have going for us, no matter what this president says or does, whether in the last days of his presidency he rises to his responsibility or not, we know this much, which is there is a strong will among the American people, even those who voted the other way going into this election, to make sure that we come together, tackle COVID, make the economy fair, ensure the wealthy pay their fair share in taxes, expand healthcare. In other words, exactly the agenda that got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris elected.
Properly. But I want to give you a look at the scene here. We are at Freedom Plaza. There are probably somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 people that have now gathered. It started with a couple of hundred this morning and has grown and grown and grown. We are expecting to march to the Supreme Court at some point. That was supposed to start a few minutes ago, but they are getting the crowd going here in Washington, D.C. There are folks from all over the place, from as far away as Florida and Texas and California. We've seen a lot of different groups here, including the far-right Proud Boys, including... Tell me what your sign says.
Stop the steal.
And what does that mean?
It means that we want all of the votes audited and recounted, and all of these swing states that stopped counting at midnight and mysteriously and miraculously came up with thousands of new votes for Biden the next day, and some of them are still counting.
Do you think that all of the states that Donald Trump won were actually legitimate?
Absolutely.
And all of the states that Biden won, do you think those are legitimate as well?
I don't think all of them that he won were illegitimate. I think the ones that stopped counting mysteriously at midnight, where Trump had a very significant lead, and there was, water pipes burst into the land?
Nobody stopped counting mysteriously at midnight, just so you know.
Well, the media may say by the law, that's not what our Constitution says. And
it's what the state's constitutions say, though. There are state laws that are in place, right?
The legislatures are the ones that are going to step in now, because the courts, as we know...
So some of the legislators have stepped in and said this is a free and fair election, including one of the people that Donald Trump put in place, who is one of the federal security election officials, who has come out and said that all of his claims are baseless, that this was a free and fair election. What is the security of the election?
I think that the people are not fooled. We've been to the rallies. We've watched the numbers. We've watched the media who continues to lie to us and hide information. We don't get our information from you all anymore. We get our information directly from the people online, from their accounts. We're able to follow our representatives, follow our senators, follow the people that tell the truth and report honestly.
So you don't believe anyone that says that this is a free and fair election? You think
absolutely
was
not.
2016 a free?
Look, Joe Biden is going to be the president-elect of the United States, and frankly, every leader of every network decision desk knows that the math is an impossibility now for Donald Trump. He cannot be elected president of the United States. There is no path for him to be elected when you look at the counties and where the votes are from that are outstanding. And so we are in this hour where I understand the caution, but by the standards of all of the networks and all of the news organizations, including through how the first 35 states were called in this election, at this hour it is clear, and these races should be called. Because with each hour, Donald Trump is able to use the confusion, his lying about the inevitable, to do more damage to our democracy. If there was an eclipse coming, and a news organization knew about a suicide cult with 1,000 members who were planning on offing themselves when the eclipse occurred, would news organizations not cover the facts of the eclipse? And the answer is they would. The president's feelings don't matter here. His temper tantrum doesn't matter. His delusions, his King Lear Act, the factotum, the enablers, everybody around him who is upset. It doesn't matter. They lost. And what happens now is we begin the process that culminates with the peaceful transition of power uninterrupted since 1797 at noon on January 20th.
Are you concerned about what kind of decisions and potential damage might be done between now and the inauguration?
I'm very concerned about it. I think all of us should be concerned about it. It is a ridiculously long time for a transition. I'm not entirely sure why it's so long, but in this particular case, it's way too long because Donald is not faring well, but he's vindictive, he's desperate, and he's going to need to do something to gain some kind of equilibrium. You know, again, he's never going to accept this loss. He's going to have to spin it in a particular way, but it is a blow, whether he's consciously aware of it or not. So he may well use the power he continues to have until January 20th to exact some forms of revenge. So we all need to be prepared for that. You know, it could come in the form of outrageous executive orders that further weaken us in some ways. It could come in the form of pardons that demoralize us. It could come in the form of, and this is the one I'm most worried about, doing everything in his power to delegitimize, at least in the eyes of his more fanatical followers, the incoming administration. We need right now somebody like President Biden and Vice President Harris to bring us together as far as that's possible. Because we've got...
He said, who knows which administration it will be, time will tell. What did you make of that?
Well, that's his delusion. That is just his dislocation from reality. And it's shameful what he has done, Wolf. This transition was probably one of the most important transitions ever, right? We're dealing with coronavirus. The numbers are going up. We have to have the Biden team hit the road running. There should be no gap in the baton pass. And for him not to have the Biden people in an orderly transition is just the height of irresponsibility and narcissism.
We're on track to over 300 electoral college votes. And look at the national numbers. We're going to win this race with a clear majority of the nation behind us. Everyone to know on day one, we're going to put our plan to control this virus into action. Millions are worried about making rent and putting food on the table. Our economic plan will put a focus on a path to a strong recovery. It's time for us to come together as a nation to heal. It's not going to be easy. We have to try.
No, I think what the president needs to do is, frankly, put his big boy pants on. He needs to acknowledge the fact that he lost, and he needs to congratulate the winner.
The Biden campaign saying Friday, it doesn't matter whether President Trump concedes or not. A Biden spokesperson saying the United States government is perfectly capable of escorting trespassers out of the White House.